Hey, afternoon, everybody. It's about 4:21. I'm going to try to do this as quickly and as best as I can because even though it's not raining right now, it was raining earlier today, and seeing as though it might clear up, maybe we're not too sure. I don't know if my brother-in-law is going to drop off my 9-year-old nephew or not. He usually drops him off between 4:30 and 6:30, well, 4:30 and 6 primarily, but still, we don't know just yet exactly what's going to happen. But anyway, I want to talk about what you see on the screen. You know, I talked about this in a video, sort of an updated lifelong, Transformer fan video that I did. And I was going to do one based on what you see in the title down below on Saturday. And I had the video ready. I just did not upload it to YouTube last night. I uploaded everything else except for that one. And now you wonder why that didn't happen? Well, apparently when I was uploading the videos off my camera to my computer, or to the computer, apparently the Norton antivirus program decided to kick in. You see, what I do with the Norton antivirus program, just to make this real quick and short, is when it start is I basically have it stop doing any virus checking or things like that. Basically, do its scheduled virus maintenance deal for 24 hours, and after those 24 hours are up, it starts up all over again. And unless, of course, you are there to shut it down for 24 hours or 6 hours or whatever, depending on your computer and the version that you have on there, it actually doesn't matter what version you have, but depending on your computer primarily, it's going to have something called backup. And what the backup does is basically back up, I don't know what files it thinks it's backing up, but it backs up basically gigabytes worth of filing. And believe me, that's one reason why you want to shut your thing down for at least a day, or if not 6 hours at the least. So that way it doesn't interfere and anything you're uploading won't be denied, because that's exactly what happened last night. Some of the videos were denied access to being put on there due to the fact that the antivirus program was on and it was basically taking up a lot of space. And it wasn't just that either. I had to clear out some other videos too, but still, you gotta get the idea. Anyway, getting back on topic here. I want to talk about, as a lifelong Transformers fan, I want to talk about the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon. Now, I touched on it in my lifelong videos, both of them, if you will, as well as I know Zero Nizarak touched on them, and I'm sure anybody else touches on them. But I want to take this time to really just single out the cartoon and talk about it. Because you see, like I mentioned in the video, unlike Zero Nizarak or anybody else, I, among many, probably most, if not a majority of fans, got introduced to the Transformers not through the comics or through the action figures, but mostly through the cartoon. Yeah. Mostly through the cartoon, we were introduced to I was introduced to Transformers. And I think that's the same for my cousin, who's 2 years older than me. We were both introduced to Transformers courtesy of the cartoon. And, I think Zero Nizarak said it best. Throughout the initial 3.5 seasons, because that's what they were, 3.5 seasons, the show kind of progressed and evolved and grew and basically matured and grew up throughout those 3.5 seasons. The first season, of course, with any new show, was basically sort of like an origin. It started out with an origin story, if you will, of how they came to Earth. Well, but mainly it was used as an introductory story. Basically more of an introductory season. Kind of introduced us to who the characters were and everything, sometimes individually, if not as group, and what the purpose was, why this war was happening, and why they were doing this and that kind of deal. Now, the first season, of course, a lot of people will agree, was very lighthearted. It was action-packed, but it was very kind of like lighthearted. In other words, it wasn't as dark as what would come later on. But it was lighthearted. It had its moments and stuff. I'm not going to say that, but it was more lighthearted. It was more lightened, I should say. More lightened compared to, like I said, what was going to come in the next few seasons, especially theatrically. But basically, season 1 was more of an introductory season as to who the characters were and what this whole situation was about. Now, following that, we ended that season. Season 1 kind of ended. It's basically as a prelude to what season 2 was going to be, because season 1 introduced us to the first combiners in the cartoon, if not in the franchise, and that was the Constructicons. That was Heavy Metal War. Now, we also got introduced during this season to some new Autobots as well, and that was the Dinobots. So the first season, again, like I said, was an introductory season to not just who the characters were initially, they originally came down to Earth, but also it introduced us to some new characters later on throughout that season. Dinobots, and then the Constructicons, and then the Insecticons. So you had three new groups, one new group of Autobots in the Dinobots, and two new Decepticon factions in the Constructicons and Insecticons that were brought to the forefront, which I thought was really cool. At least we were getting some new characters, and I'll tell you this, just like, I can't really remember or recall, but I know I was probably among many of the young fans at that time that when we saw Devastator for the first time, and we found out that the Constructicons were combiners, that they can become one robot, our jaws just only hung down going, ooh, oh my God. They become a huge robot. And that was initially, that toy line, that toy set of the Constructicons became one of the most sought-after Transformer sets in quite some time, individually and packaged together. Now later on, after those episodes, we got sent right into the second season. And the second season was a little bit more edgier. It was a little bit more kind of, let's say, grayscaled, if you will. Kind of more edgier, basically more freelanced at times. A little bit more mature. Basically, it was, like I said, it was more on that kind of like in the middle. That fine line kind of deal of what it was in the first season and what it was to be later on. It was just basically a little bit more edgier, more action-adventure, and a bit more mature. You could tell by the second season the maturity of the show, that the show was evolving and it was maturing. You could tell by that. And the one thing about the second season is they didn't just have the Transformers battle on Earth. No, they had the Autobots and Decepticons battling on Earth and throughout space, on different planets, in different time periods, if you will, as well as on Cybertron, which I thought was pretty cool. It basically was season 2 was more of an expansion season for the Transformers cartoon. It was more of an expansion season. And just like at the end of season 1, we were introduced to all new characters. For example, we were introduced to the Autobots' first combiner team in the Aerial Bots. That's right, we were introduced to the Aerial Bots. And I like how they use that introduction of them for a few episodes as their story arc. Basically using certain episodes as their story arc to focus on these characters to get us to better understand them. And for them, story arc-wise, to kind of understand why they are here and why they have to follow orders at times. But then, on the other hand, we got new characters in the Stunticons for the Decepticons. So it was, and I like how, and I like how both get the life force given to them by Vector Sigma. And that was another thing we were introduced to too. We were introduced to how the Autobots and Decepticons came to life, how they came to be, how the life force was given to them, and that was by this thing in the middle of Cybertron called Vector Sigma. So I really like that. And they weren't just the only characters we were introduced to. I like the fact that we were also introduced to other characters like the Combaticons, and I like how they were brought to life. I think, I don't know what it was, I think Starscream went to Cybertron or something like that, got what he needed from previous imprisoned Decepticons who were imprisoned because of betrayals or something like that. And I like how you got that backstory on these sparks that he took to infuse into the Combaticons. And I like how they too, like the Stunticons, like the Aerobots, and even the Constructicons before them, all were combiners. I like that. I really did. But I also like the backstory on them, how, you know, they felt like, hey, we combine in the most powerful combiner of all. We're the most powerful one. We have the, you know, it's like, hey, we combine into the most powerful combiner of them all. We should be in charge. So it's really cool that they gave a lot of these new characters, especially the combiner characters, backstories. It was really cool. I also like the fact that we got, even though it was towards the end of the season 2, we were introduced to a group of Autobot combiners that we thought originally were introduced in season 3, but were actually more, well, they were more used in season 3, but they were introduced primarily at the end of season 2, and that was the Protectobots. I didn't even know the Protectobots were around at that time, but, you know, there they were. There they were, and apparently the reason they were introduced towards the end of that season was as an answer to Bruticus. See, like the Dinobots, even though they don't combine, they never combined in the G1 cartoon, although if you look at some of the other figures that have come out in the recent years, you kind of have Dinobot combiners and all that. But back originally in the G1 cartoons, even though they were not programmed to combine, they at least were an answer to Devastator. They were an answer to Devastator as his rival. Like the Aerobots, when they would become Superion, were the answer to the Stunticons, were the rivals of the Stunticons and Minosaur. So basically when Bruticus got built, in a way, you kind of knew as a fan, it kind of gave the Decepticons an advantage. But then later on, when these episodes came out and you saw the Protectobots, and you saw that they combined into Defensor, you said to yourself, oh, there's the answer to Bruticus. So, again, it was, to me, when I first saw the episode, because I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I think I saw it with, I don't know if I think I may have saw it when I got my Rhino DVDs for the first time in a long time. Or something like that. And I really thought it was cool. I really thought it was cool to know that they came out in season 2 and not initially in season 3. But again, season 2 wasn't just more mature, more edgier at times. It definitely showed you that the franchise and the cartoon itself was evolving into a more edgier, darker product for the, you know, cartoon-wise. But it also, ladies and gentlemen, introduced us to another kind of Transformer, which was a prelude to a Transformer who has gained a huge cult following and fan base. You see, in season 2, there was an episode which I'm pretty sure a lot of people like and probably favor. And it's called Sea Change. And basically one of the plot points of Sea Change is you have this pool of transformation. That basically when you dive in it, all you have to do is think about what you want to be when you dive in it. And when you come out, you will become that being. You will become what you thought of. So we have this one character, I can't think of her name right now, Ilana or something like that. I think it's Ilana. I'm not really sure. Or Lena or something. I can't really think of her name. But towards the end of this episode, she goes in along with Sea Spray, because Sea Spray during the episode wished himself to be like her, kind of like human mermaid-like. After they both dived in and Sea Spray basically is, returns to normal, she comes out, but she doesn't come out just as herself. She comes out as a female Autobot. And that basically gave you an idea, like, holy crap, they're gonna be female Autobots, or like, holy crap, she's a girl Autobot, she's a female Autobot, and that sort of gave you an idea that maybe there was gonna be more to this female Autobot situation. And what was funny as well is she had a transformation. The transformation was into a Gondola. So that was pretty cool to see that. And like I said, if you're a fan, you're thinking, there's a female Autobot. And let's say you have sisters, like let's say you have younger, like younger sisters that are older or younger than you. You want to bring them in and say, hey, look, female Autobot. And that to me is what helped bring in that female. And I'm not trying to be offensive here. Not trying to be offensive. But to me, that's what helped bring in the female fan base for the Transformers. Not saying there wasn't a female fan base before, but when you had this girl wish herself to be an Autobot temporarily at the end of that episode, to me, that was the turning point to where the people at Hasbro said, hey, we need to bring in the female fan base that you see with Jem. Because Jem, believe it or not, and My Little Pony, believe it or not, we're actually gaining a male fan base as well. A young boy fan base as well, because of some of the things they were doing. So, to me, that was the start of bringing in that fan base, that female fan base, more so than it already was. I mean, basically bringing them in by the packful, if you know what I mean. And then if that really didn't initially help out, if that really wasn't enough, the search for Alpha Trion came on later on, and we were introduced to the fact that there always had been female Autobots. Yeah, there always were female Autobots. Go figure. That there were always female Autobots. And again, if Sea Change didn't help bring in more of a female fan base or young girl fan base than there already was, Search for Alpha Trion did just that. And I really like that. And I like the fact that you find out that the characters of Alita Run, Chromia, Moonracer, and Firestar are basically all the GFs, if you will, the girlfriends, or the love interest, if you will, of Optimus, Powerglide, Inferno, and Ironhide. I thought that was really, really unique that you got that kind of perspective. And then later, and then to really top it off, you find out that Elita was built, that within Elita, I guess you could say the real leader, the founding father of the Autobots, if you will, the senior, you kind of get the grand poobah, if you will. Alpha Trion when he built her, installed a special weapon in her. A weapon that basically freezes time. Or something like that. But I like the catch that they gave this. The catch was that if she used it, she'd be basically almost sacrificing herself by doing it. And the thing I liked about this episode as well is you find out that when Alpha Trion built her, you also found out that you kind of had an idea towards the end of the episode. Because just like when Prime kind of got that revelation when that revelation hit Prime, it hit you as a viewer. It's like, holy crap, this guy built Prime. And that's why they when he had Optimus do what he had to do to help Alita, it just really was to me a unique twist and perspective, and it just showed you how evolved and how mature the writing had become with the show. And if that's not all, I spoke about the aerial bots. One of the storylines that focused on them the most was War Dawn. And basically War Dawn, if you will, sent the aerial bots back in time to the beginning of the war. Yeah, right to the beginning of the war. And here is the first time you see Optimus Prime as Orion Pax and his girlfriend, I think her name's Ariel here, who later on becomes Alita 1. And how do you know this? Because after Orion Pax is injured and Alita 1 and Ariel is injured, the aerial bots take them to Alpha Trion, who looks a little younger, and he repairs them. He rebuilds them. He rebuilds Orion into Optimus Prime, and then as they're leaving, he says, I think I'll name the other one Ariel. I think I will name her Alita 1. And there you go. And I like that little twist at the end of the episode as well. Oh, well, they kind of tell Prime, well, they call Prime, well, they're like, something like they call him by Optimus, and then they say, oh, should we say Orion Pax? And then all of a sudden the memories of back then hits Optimus like, wait a minute, it was you guys that helped me. What was crazy about that is here he was when they were built and given life by Vector Sigma, and then all of a sudden he's given a new memory of, wait a minute, we helped bring these guys to life with Vector Sigma, but yet they're the ones that saved me when I was Orion. So, again, I really like the twists and turns that the season gave, and they worked to perfection, and they really showed, like I said before, how much the series and how much the series through writing and everything had matured and evolved. And then if that wasn't enough, we end up going right into the movie. And the movie, when it was advertised and was given a PG rating, at first people were thinking, I'm sure a lot of the parents were thinking, why is it given PG? Well, maybe because there's a lot of shooting and violence, that's fine. But I can tell you this, and a lot of people have stated this, they probably understood why it was PG because, the fact of lasers and all that. But I'm pretty sure that as soon as they went into that theater, according to numerous reports, they didn't expect what they were going to see, and boy, did it blow them away. In fact, this movie, Transformers the movie, changed the aspect of animation for a while because now you had no idea what movie you were going to get despite its rating. And here's the thing. This is a movie that was released through DEG, if you will, through DEG and Hasbro and Sunbow, through DEG, Hasbro, Sunbow, and Marvel in 1986, and it was only a few months or so after they had released a G-rated Disney-esque musical in My Little Pony the movie. So think about it. Within 1 year, you get a Disney-esque G-rated musical movie in My Little Pony the movie, and then later on, from the same people, you get a dark, edgy, mature, violent Transformers the movie animated film with the PG rating. In fact, there were some people that said, in fact, this was through the fan commentary, that at this time, and I'm not sure if they're correct or anything, that they only had 2 rating options because of the tone of the film and what was in the film. They had PG and they had R. They basically said there was no PG-13 at the time. I'm not sure if they're correct about that. But basically said there was no PG-13 just yet. I think it was still it was just kind of new maybe. But they either had PG or R, and the best way to get the kids and the family in there was just to rate it PG. So, but yeah, this film basically really took a lot of people by storm. And I'm not talking success-wise, because it didn't do, it did okay, but not to the expectations a lot of people were hoping. But basically, it took people by storm by its tone, the tone that it was given. Basically, by the fact that it was dark and it was edgy. It was very dark. It was violent. You basically had characters that originally, when you watched in the movie, watched the G1 show, when they were shot, they didn't die. They just got injured or damaged. You know, they just got injured or damaged. They never died or anything. But yet, in the movie, they did. They just basically got blown to pieces. I mean, the ending of the first attack by the Decepticons on the Autobots in that shuttle, the ending where Megatron basically, blows the hell out of Ironhide. I mean, good gravy. I mean, if that's not enough, when I think it's Scrapper or whatever his name, one of the Constructicons shoots Prowl that goes right through him, and then they zoom in on his face as his eyes turn orange and smoke comes right out of his mouth. I mean, how much more violent can you get? And again, like I said, it did definitely take on a dark tone and really shocked a lot of people. And and I totally believe the fans on the fan commentary for the 20th anniversary edition when they say that as soon as parents saw that, they took their kids and they left. They just left the theaters. I believe it. Because I don't think they walked into expecting that. I mean, it's kind of like, and I'm not trying to say this as a straight up comparison, but it's kind of like what happened in Australia a couple months ago, several months ago. Parents were taking their kids to go see Madagascar 3, and instead of seeing the DreamWorks logo, they see this dead corpse coming flying at them for Paranormal Activity 4. Yeah. And I know that's a strange comparison, but that's basically when you think about it, how the parents felt when they took the kids to go see Transformers the movie in 1986, going in expecting to see a movie about the Transformers, but not expecting to see the kind of movie they saw. Not expecting that level of violence. But after that, you kind of got that same kind of darkness and edgier feel, more mature feel in the following season, in season 3. You kind of got that, especially when you watched the episode Dark Awakening. Now, what was funny about Dark Awakening is even though Optimus came back in that, there's two different versions of it, two different endings. You see, after Prime sacrifices himself to save the others, after the Matrix helps him wake up and realize you're being used as a weapon by the Quintessons, I like how after he sacrifices himself, the original ending has Rodimus say, "So long, Prime," but then an alternate ending it's the same scene, but you have a narrator come up over Rodimus's line and says, "But is this the end of Optimus Prime? Stay tuned tomorrow for the return of Optimus Prime," or something like that. And again, the only reason they did that is because I think before they showed the Return of Optimus Prime episode, they showed that to sort of be like a prelude, a lead-in to what we were going to get. And I like how the Return of Optimus Prime was a continuation, if you will, in a sense of Dark Awakening. Because I think as soon as Dark Awakening came up, a lot of the fans, a lot of the young kids that were saddened and cried and everything and upset that Prime died in the movie, as soon as they saw him brought back the way he was, they wanted him back. They basically demanded him back. And I think Hasbro realized that. They're like, oh crap, now what do we do? And so they had to bring him back. And I like how they were building towards that, because basically some of the episodes had Rodimus questioning whether or not he was the right person for the job, right person to be the leader. And eventually when we got to Return of Optimus Prime, you found out that, yeah, he was worthy of being the leader, but he was basically like a temporary holder. He's like, it's like, to the fans, it's like, yeah, he was a good leader, but he's not Optimus. So, there you go. Overall, though, I really like that. And the one thing about Season 3 as well is it sort of gave us I guess you could say gave us sort of a crossover between G.I. Joe and Transformers. Now, you might say, well, if you look online, Marissa Fairborn is the daughter of Lady Jane in Flint from G.I. Joe. Yeah, there's no doubt she is. And they said that in one of the episodes, there's this holographicness of sort of this holographic version of a father that looks basically like Flint. It's basically, when you look at the holographic hologram of a father, it's Flint, basically from G.I. Joe. So I like how they kind of, with Marissa Fairborn, kind of gave us that connection between both franchises. But I really liked how we sort of had a more connection and more of a crossover with the episode Only Human. Because as soon as you saw who the old Snake character was, I mean, if you didn't watch G.I. Joe simultaneously along with Transformers, then you obviously didn't know who this was, or didn't catch on who it was. But as soon as you saw who old Snake was, you're like, holy smokes, that's Cobra Commander. And especially the way he talked and everything, and then at the end where he's chanting where he's yelling or shouting Cobra. And it's like, again, you're like, holy crap, that's Cobra Commander. It just hits you. And like I said, it was the only episode, like I said, that connected in sort of a bit of a crossover between both franchises. Because mainly what happened was you had you had four of the main characters. You had the four main characters, Rodimus, Magnus, Springer, and RC. You had those four main characters. Basically, you had their life force, if you will, the spirits, drained out of them and into in these other tubes that even though they look like blobs at first, were nothing but blobs at first, actually kind of evolved into human being. And basically you had those characters as humans from a majority of the episode, trying to get back the robotic bodies and trying to get restored back into their bodies. So, and the one thing about it that some people point out is when you looked at the facial features of the human versions, you basically saw animated versions of the people that did the voices for them throughout the series, if not in the movie. Like with Magnus, you saw a bit of like Robert Stack a little bit. You saw Neil Ross a little bit in the Springer human, Susan Blue in the RC human, and I think a little bit of whoever did Rodimus's voice in his facial features as well. But overall, it was a good episode. It was, like I said, the only kind of like crossover we got between the two franchises. And the other thing I will say about Season 3 is when we got to the return of Optimus Prime, I like how they, at the climax of that two-parter, or that hour-long special, you had The Touch, Stan Bush's song, The Touch, being played at the end of it. I like that. And you're thinking, and I'll be honest, when I first heard that, I was like, that's the song from the movie. They're actually using it in this episode. So that, to me, again, that was really cool about it. And then we get into the Season 4, or like I like to call the 1/4, like I say, Season 4, if you will, or as I like to call it, Season 3.5, the other half of Season 3, despite how you look at it. Season 4, or later half of Season 3. Basically, which was consisting of 3 episodes. An interesting theory about that, when David Wise was interviewed about that by Rhino, it was originally supposed to be 5 parts, not 3 parts. But anyway, here we got introduced to who the headmasters were, or eventually the origin of how the headmasters, according to the American G1 series, came to be. And basically it was the same characters that we saw figure-wise being sold in the stores, except for RC. RC was the only exception. And then, of course, the Target Masters and how they all came to be. Basically, it was an interesting 3-part Season 4 series finale for Transformers. I enjoyed it. I mean, I thought it was cool. It gave us an idea, gave us the origin, American-wise, of how Fortress Maximus came to be, how Scorponok came to be, how you had these different aliens, this group of alien beings called the Nebulons and the Hive, how they teamed up with the Autobots, Nebulons, and the Hive with the Decepticons to be the headmasters and target masters. I enjoyed that. I thought it was cool. And I like how it kind of gave it a plot point, you know. Basically, it focused again back on Vector Sigma. And it had this key that they had to, that the Decepticons were trying to obtain. You know, this little key. That basically can open this plasma energy chamber. So, and I like how basically it's the reason it's happening is basically because Vector Sigma is allowing it to happen, and there's a reason for it. And I like how that reason is it's going to restore Cybertron back to his former glory. So, overall, it's not bad. It wasn't too bad. I liked it. It was good. And that's really all I could say about it. The only difference was, when you take a look at the Japan continuity, the Japan continuation of the G1 continuity, they don't even acknowledge Rebirth. They basically continue off from Return of Optimus Prime, and that's it. They don't acknowledge Rebirth. Yeah, they don't acknowledge Rebirth. RC's not a headmaster, so you kind of get the idea. And that's the one thing I will say about Japan, is that even though we never got to see the continuation until recently on DVD, or if you had obtained it through YouTube or other kind of formats, other kind of means, if you will, means and format, you know, you never really got to see the entire series until recently. So, I thank Shout Factory for at least getting us the Japan continuation. I mean, yeah, you did kind of see the continuation later on. According to several reports, places like Hawaii and some places here in California got the, as some people call it, the very badly dubbed English version of Headmasters, but still, that's another story for another time. Overall, though, I really, really enjoyed G1. But you see, Season 3 and 4, but you see, what's ironic is Season 4 wasn't the end of it. You had another season. That's right, the 87-88 season. And what was the 87-88 season? If not 89 season as well? Or 88-89 season, whatever you want to call it. Basically, the fifth season was known as the best of. That's right. The fifth season was known as the best of the Transformers. And the reason it was known as the best of is because you had two different things. You had, you had a different intro. You had an all-new intro, which had clips from G1 as well as from the movie. As well as you had it hosted, or co-hosted by a Power Master Optimus Prime, basically trying to sell the Power Master Optimus Prime toy, which I originally had, and I'm happy to say I had at that time, and I'm going to try to get back down the line. But also, you had it co-hosted by this young kid named Timmy or Tommy, whatever his name is. And you basically had Prime telling him stories of basically what was considered the best of the Transformers, and that's how the best of came. He told him about, some of the stories were about more than meets the eye. Some were about, basically a majority of the stories that were told from the Power Master Prime to this kid, a majority of them were miniseries, and some individual episodes, but a majority of them were miniseries. And what was funny and what was unique about this, Season 5, the best of, is you actually had the movie. That's right, the movie, Transformers the movie, split up into 5 different parts. That's right. After Power Master Prime would talk about some of the stories involved around Season 1 and 2, he would talk about the movie, which was kind of cool. He would talk about the movie, and they would separate into 5 parts. And another unique thing about it, because I used to watch this on KBHK 44, is that on Saturday mornings, they would also do like a whole 2 hours worth. That's basically what the best of the Transformers aired most of the time, was on the on the weekends and sometimes on the weekdays, but majority of the time on the weekends. But basically, weekdays or weekends, on the weekends they would show them. They would do like 1 half-hour episode and that's it. And I think, again, like I said, they showed them throughout the weekdays, but it was in the morning hours. I think it was in the morning hours. I can't really remember, but basically, season 5 was basically miniseries and the movie split it into a miniseries. And then on occasion, the movie would be shown for 2 hours on a Saturday morning in the same kind of way. Basically, the movie would be presented in its format with a few edits here and there. Basically, the swear words taken out, like damn and shit. But everything else would be kept in. I mean, think about it. Think about it this way. Think about the Hub version. Think about when the Hub channel airs Transformers the movie. They cut out the words shit and damn. There's your answer. So, anyway, that's basically what the what the 2 hour thing was on Saturday mornings with the Power Master Prime and that kid. And what was unique about the ending of the 2 hour movie, the 2 hour broadcast of the movie on the Saturday mornings, as well as the miniseries version of the movie, was that at the end of part 5, the final part of the miniseries version of the movie, as well as at the end of the 2 hour Saturday morning or Sunday morning presentation of the movie, you will always Prime. He would leave just like he would all the time. At the end of every episode, he would leave, go back to Cybertron, but this time he ended by saying, "I leave you with the touch," and then all of a sudden, the touch video by Stan Bush would come on. And I remember one year I recorded this because I always used to read the TV Guide. And I remember one time I looked at 9 o'clock, it said Transformers. So I thought, okay, it's a half hour. I looked down at 9:30, nothing was listed for KBHK. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, maybe it's an hour's worth of Transformers. And then look at 10 o'clock for KBHK, channel 44, nothing. 10:30, nothing. And as soon as I saw that one time, I tell my mom, Mom, Transformers the movie's going to be on Saturday morning. I got to record it. And so she said, okay, if you do good in school this week, I'll let you record it. And she did. I did good. I kept my word. I did good in school. She let me record it. Even though my sisters weren't too happy about it because they like to watch shows like Beetlejuice and all that. So, but she let me record it, and I still have that tape. Unfortunately, that tape is in Kansas. And the only difference was I didn't get the entire beginning of the movie. I got it right when Unicron was attacking that first planet. And that was it. As soon as that one robot put down those chemicals, that's where I have it at. As soon as he sits down those bottles of chemicals, and all of a sudden, boom. Or beakers of chemicals, boom, that's when I have it. That's when I started recording it. So yeah, that tape's in Kansas somewhere. I still got to get it back. But I did record it. But despite that, later on down the line, I got the movie on VHS from Rhino. And then later on, I got the DVD from Rhino. And then, of course, the 20th anniversary edition from Rhino. I even have the poster, which I'm looking at right now. Sorry, my mouth hit the mic there. But overall, that's what Season 5 consisted of. It was just mainly some individual episodes, but a majority of it was the miniseries. Miniseries like More Than Meets the Eye, Ultimate Weapon, Five Faces of Darkness, Megatron's Master Plan, Rebirth, The Return of Optimus Prime, and then, of course, like I said, the movie chopped up into 5 individual parts, and then on an occasional Saturday or Sunday, aired in full length on for that time period. Now, that was basically the last season officially of Transformers G1 in syndication. But it wouldn't be the last time we'd see Transformers. You see, back in 94 through about 95 or 96, they brought out Transformers Generation 2. Now, they had that Generation 2 toy line and everything, which was okay. I thought it was cool. But to coincide with that, they brought out what they called the CGI, the enhanced versions of the Transformers Generation 1 Adventures. And they dubbed it Generation 2, even though it was Generation 1. It was Generation 1, it was the Generation 1 episodes, but it was dubbed Generation 2 because they used the Cybertronian space cube to enhance the Transformers, which was a CGI cube to enhance the storylines. So, overall, basically, you kind of had about 5 to 6 seasons. The 6th season basically being the Cybertronian CGI cybernetic space cube version for Generation 2, which again, like I said, was Generation 1. But overall, what can I say about Transformers that I have not said for almost, I don't know how long now, about 40-something minutes? About the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon that no one else can say. Well, not no one else can say, but no one else has said in their reviews and looking back on it. And all I can say about it is I hope and pray to God that Shout Factory or someone Blu-rays the series. I really do. I know some people say it's not possible, but hey, if they could showcase Transformers in high definition on the Hub's high definition channel, I think they can do it. They just need to probably put the Autobot and Decepticon logo on the sides. I mean, heck, ESPN does that. WWE does that. They put their signs on the sides for stuff that wasn't originally broadcast in HD. Kind of get the idea. But still, I hope and pray they do that. They find a way to do that, because that will really help. That will really enhance. That will really give people more. That will really, well, basically, really, signify that the G1 cartoon was the best, and that it has set a bar that no Transformer show yet has over. No Transformer show has yet to surpass. I'm sure Beast Wars to me was probably the closest, but that's about it. I'm sure Transformers Prime might be heading in that direction, but we'll just have to wait and see. But again, Transformers Generation 1 set a bar that is yet to be surpassed, and probably never will be. But that's just my thoughts looking back at the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon. So, thank you all for listening, taking your time to listen to this. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Video response if you like. Your thoughts on Transformers Generation 1 and how you feel about it. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to stop now because it's about 5:10. And my nephew could be showing up at any time, or my mom could be showing up. And my mom will probably be wondering, where's the mic? Because I'm using the Rock Band mic right now to record this. So, until next time, God bless, take care. Again, please comment in video response. I would like to hear from you guys and what your thoughts are. Peace out. God bless.